So I read 25 contemporary books in the month of January because honestly, life was feeling so heavy. And when life feels heavy for me, I tend to do two things. One, acts of service. Acts of service is always a way how I can feel less hopeless in life and when things are happening, but I also disappear into stories. So yes, reading was absolutely a coping mechanism for me this month, but I'm not going to lie to you, it was also work because I am deep in advanced reading for both the spring and summer 2026 reading guides. So if you want to escape your own brain for a bit and get an early look at which upcoming books are actually worth your time, not just the hyped books, grab a beverage, get comfortable, because this is going to be a big wrap up. Okay, so today's wrap up is going to be in two parts. First, I'm going to revisit 7 books from my January reading vlog. Truth be told, the video was awful, the audio was worse. So, it wasn't working for me because I was trying to just use my camera as is, but I will bring a microphone when I'm vlogging. So I'm going to do that section first, lightly revisit those, but then I'm going to get into the other 18 books, which I haven't talked about anywhere else yet. And these are the ones that are mostly going to be spring releases with a few that I'm pushing later for summer, but I read them early. I also group them by vibe, so I will be sharing romances, mysteries, and thrillers, and then we'll get into the literary and the general fiction, because also that is how I choose what to read when the world feels really chaotic. So let's start with this physical stack and rewind a bit some of the books from the reading vlog. And remember, I use timestamps, so you can use that to kind of move around. Now, the first one is You Watched in Silence by H. Lee Justine. And when I finished this, I was unsure about it, mostly because I felt it was doing a lot at once. But distance has been kind to this book because I have a different feeling. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's a twisty thriller. Yes, it has romantic elements. It has the influencer culture and online toxicity background. But there's also a grieving woman who becomes a nanny for the influencer she once idolized. And then things, of course, spiral. There's grief, obsession, just all kinds of things, the feeling of being watched. And what really stayed with me wasn't the plot mechanics. It was the atmosphere. It really still lingered. The sense that, the internet is always lurking. The menace here isn't just supernatural, it's also parasocial. So if you like thrillers that can simmer rather than sprint, I think, this will be a good read for you. Now, I also read Denise Williams. I love Denise Williams. This is the redo list. And this one was just the perfect palate cleanser for me at the time I read it. So we have a woman who's rebuilding her life after a very public breakup. She's house sitting and she's slowly falling for her brother's best friend, which, by the way, who she's house sitting for. So we see her kind of, trying to do things from her past relationship, but kind of this time now on her own terms. That was lovely to see. It was funny. It was warm. It was just grounded in just really good things. The banter was great. It was doing, I feel, what it set out to do. I flew through it. However, the miscommunication trope will never be it for me. So even though I loved it, listen, I will read Denise Williams regardless, but it's just, miscommunication. That just doesn't do it for me. But another book I had high hopes for this month is You'll Never Forget Me by Aisha Rhea. I tried. I really tried. And listen, this book will hold your attention. This is probably, when you're at the doctor's office or you're at the dentist or you're on an airplane trip or a long train ride or something. This book will be good for that. It's kind of like a Talented Mr. Ripley retelling. So it's Hollywood set, it has psychological thriller, it's ambition, it's guilt, the stories we tell ourselves. And this actress kills her rival, and then she has to work very hard to kind of stay ahead of the investigation. Also her conscience. She's basically low-key kind of taking over her life. So I love the Hollywood setting. It's glossy, very well done. But the emotional logic of it all was a bit shaky for me. And by the end, I was wondering about these choices. It just felt more puzzling than anything else. It's entertaining. It's just not a perfect book, but it's a debut. So I will definitely be giving, this author another go for sure. I also read a historical fiction, mystery, romance. It's a Regency setting, slow burn, Whispers at Painswick Court. We have a young woman with ambitions who finds herself, caring for this patient at this very grand estate. It's full of secrets, just lots of hushed conversations and suspicious accidents. And the first half of it kind of takes time to kind of get into things. the tension eventually tightens and it pays off. So again, historical mystery, romance. It gives Jane Austen, it gives a bit of Agatha Christie. Big cast, okay? So be mindful of that. Big cast. But it's a good time. If the author does like a follow-up or a second book or something like that, I am definitely here for it. This one. I was very excited to read I, Medusa by Ayanna Gray. Listen, this is bold. This is angry. This is a retelling that, you know what, it's an achievement. So we get Medusa reimagined as this young woman navigating power, navigating betrayal, and just the cruelty, you know? So the rage is purposeful. It's very feminist. It's also very Afrocentric and very emotionally direct. I think maybe it's a bit too direct for some people, but not for me, because sometimes you need to call a thing a thing. So this is not subtle, okay? It's not subtle. And listen, I know Ayanna Gray from Birds of Prey, young adult, and I kind of felt like this was a step up at times. I could feel like it was a step up, but I kind of felt like she was lingering between the YA and the adult, but maybe that is just me personally. But I will say, if you want a mythological retelling that centers fury, anger, sisterhood, reclamation, it will give you this catharsis. It's not a feel-good book, because again, we know what happens in the end. It's just a matter of how are we going to get there, you know? But yeah, it delivered. And can we one time for the book cover and the pages? Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm really loving it. And I also read another fantasy, The Wolf and the Crown of Blood by Elizabeth May. This is dark, erotic, fantasy romance, just unapologetically so. We have a princess whose blood is sustaining like this ancient magical thing and is sentenced to die repeatedly. And then there's this immortal assassin who is sent to kill her. But then, of course, that becomes something else entirely. The world building is intriguing. I wish it had more like power dynamics in there, but the characters are compelling. I think the book is heavily focused on spice instead of like exploring bigger ideas, because I felt there was a lot of potential there. However, look, if you want some morally great immortals, you will be fed here. If you want lore, details and stuff, this is not the book. This is vibes. This is like watching reality television, you know. Do you learn things from it? Kind of like, you know, maybe-ish. It's entertainment first. Let me just put it that way. This is pure escapism, just a good time, entertaining first and foremost. I feel that was the priority. But then I also had Into the Midnight Wood by Alexandra McCullum. You know what, with hindsight, this was kind of a standout-ish. It's romantic fantasy. It's a story about two roommates, a small town, a forest that holds more than it should. And the characters, especially the central relationship, are so they're so layered, tender. It's just emotionally real. The magic is quieter here, and it's not always like fully integrated, but the relationship work was giving. It's excellent. So the grief, the identity, the chosen family, the folklore. Yes, I think this really delivered on the folklore threaded throughout. It was a good time. I think I finished this feeling very attached to these people. So I guess in a sense, you know, that was a win. But now let's get into the 18 books I haven't talked about anywhere else. I'm really excited to get into it. We're going to get into romance, then we're going to get into mysteries and thrillers, and then we're going to get into literary and general fiction. But first, I need to go get myself a beverage. So give me a sec. And we're back. Okay, let's get into the romance, because again, when the world feels chaotic, romance to me stops feeling like a guilty pleasure and starts feeling more like a necessity, because I needed to know that people are good, people are finding love, you know, even though they're messy and they're imperfect and they're just humans trying, you know, love can show up as relief and not another problem to solve. So one of the books I read is by Catherine Walsh, How to Write a Love Story by Catherine Walsh. And this is a book lovers rom-com set in Ireland. And the course setup is basically there's publishing pressure going on, there's grief, there's forced proximity, because we have an editor who's sent from New York to Ireland because an author has stopped responding. And the author is the late best-selling writer's daughter, who she hasn't finished the last installment of her father's beloved series. But you know what? She's grieving. She's overwhelmed, and she doesn't want help from this editor who's like this fanboy who feels like, oh, he knows this series better than her, including her. So anyway, I think if you loved Catherine Walsh's like holiday romances, this is like a warm step forward outside of that setting. And the setting itself is just cozy, and it's just genuinely so good, with emotional stakes and chemistry that just builds in a way that feels earned. So I'm definitely thinking about that. But I also read Toe to Toe by Fallon Ballard. Now, my favorite Fallon Ballard is Just My Type and Right on Cue. And this one is okay. You know, this one is steamy, very centered on dance and performance, and just that world. Because, you know, there's ballet studios, there's rehearsal rooms, there's that intimacy of pushing your body past its limits. So we have a ballerina who's on the edge of getting her dream role, but then her director basically tells her she doesn't have like the sex appeal for it to work, which is enraging. You know, it's insane. So anyway, she gets a sexy male dancer to help her tap into her confidence and her sensuality. And obviously the lessons start to turn into feelings. So it's hot, it's fun. It has the things you know from Fallon Ballard, where you're like, okay, we keep going. And then before you know it, it's midnight and you have to go to bed. So yeah. I also read Mia Sosa, The Starter X by Mia Sosa. So my favorite Mia Sosa is The Worst Best Man, and this is okay. It's chaotic in the best way. It's a rom-com just built on this ridiculous premise that really commits to the bit of, you know, our main character, she has a starter ex in college, and women hired her to date their crush and then make the guy's life so miserable he'd run back to the girl, you know, the original girl. So anyway, so now she's back in New York trying to fix things with her family, and her sister asks her to revive the starter ex scheme to help her land the man that she wants, except our main character starts falling for him herself. It is so zany. It's just lies piling on lies. You'll want to shake them a little, but you know what? The heart is there, and the emotional stakes with the sisters actually matter. I read Cara Bastone. Cara Bastone's new book is No Matter What. I have to say, again, this one is okay, but Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone is my favorite. This is in no way a frothy rom-com. It's heart-wrenching. It's a slow burn. It's a marriage in crisis kind of romance, because we have our main characters who've been together for years, but then there's this traumatic accident that happens and something between them breaks. So they're still living in the same house, but he's sleeping in the guest room, and she finds evidence, you know what, he might be planning to leave. And then he stumbles into like this class, which becomes a lifeline and a way back to herself. So she, you know, she's finding her way, and then her partner finds this way to become like her muse, and you know, they become vulnerable, and it's about healing and grief, and sometimes the things you can't say out loud. So it's beautiful, but it's painful. Lots of miscommunication here, which I'm not always a fan of miscommunication, but if you are, at least you know that's what you're gonna get when you go in. I am scrolling here to tell you about the books I want to talk about. Let me know in the comments if any of these sound interesting so far. I do want to talk to you about the Abby Jimenez. Listen, Abby Jimenez's new book is entitled The Night We Met. And listen, my longtime favorite Abby Jimenez has been the Happily Ever After playlist. But I think this book is taking the crown, because the setup is so deliciously awful in just the way only I feel Abby Jimenez can pull off. So we have our main character, she's dating this guy, but she keeps accidentally bonding with his grumpy best friend instead. Now, that best friend is starting with hospital visits that turn into, you know, a real connection. The friend is helping the guy with other behind the scenes things and gifts to make our main female character happy, while quietly falling apart because his feelings are getting too real. Listen, this is a slow burn with grown-up people problems. There's money stress, complicated friendships, health stuff. All of this is being handled with care. The pining is relentless. And you know, Abby Jimenez does that thing where she just breaks you apart, but kind of, you know, your chest is heaving. You can't stop reading. I am telling you. I'm also going to go on record and say this is the best Abby Jimenez yet. Like, this will be showing up in the guide. This took me out. You know, it's okay when you have authors, they have books that are just okay. And then lots of her books that are just okay. Again, Happily Ever After playlist is my favorite, but this I feel is like her absolute best. So if you felt like her other books were mid, Don't skip this one. I feel like this one is really, really, really good. I also went into historical romance territory with The Scoundrel and the Siren by Christy Carlyle. This is my first Christy Carlyle, by the way. So this is historical romance. It's refreshing in a good way. It's not precious. It's not overly polished. You know, people in corsets are out here doing the work and they want each other. So I love that. So our main character is this scandalous spinster who would rather be involved with work. She's working on some archaeological things than society nonsense. And then our main character, he's that rogue who gets her fired from a library job and then turns around and ends up running the archaeological thing that she's been dreaming about joining. So there's attraction between them. It turns physical quickly. The relationship stays surprisingly straightforward and kind. I can never say that. The archaeological details are fun. I love the Norfolk setting. Such a compelling setting. I actually like the fact that they spent more time in Norfolk than London or anything like that. But it's a cozy read. It's also spicy. And yeah, it's a good time. Okay, we also have to talk about this other summer queen, Annabelle Monaghan, whose new book is entitled Dolly All the Time. Again, hands down, this is my favorite Annabelle Monaghan. I just find it so interesting because I just said that about Abby Jimenez, but I feel the same about Annabelle Monaghan. Again, are the books okay? Are the books good, in the past? Yeah, and you know what? It's okay to have an okay book. It's okay to have a book that can just be mid. So when you have something that just knocks it out the park, I was like, whoa, I'm taken aback. So I feel this way about this new book, Dolly. So our main character, her name is Dolly. She's a 39-year-old woman. She's a single mom, and she's gone back to her hometown in Rhode Island for the summer, which I love the Rhode Island setting, okay? But she's going back there to take care of her dad and her brother who's disabled, while she's also juggling multiple jobs. And she's so tired in that very specific way caretakers are tired. Like if you've been there, the you don't have time to even notice how tired you are. Tired, trust me. But anyway, she runs into this guy. His name is Stuart, and he is a super famous person in the town. Not famous, but popular family name. And he asked her to fake date him after his fiance dumps him. So of course, this thing starts out transactional. There's a hefty check involved, which I was so happy for my girl. But what makes this book sing, I feel, is how the fantasy of being cared for collides with Dolly's reality of always being the responsible one, But anyway, this is such a warm book. It's just so great. It's emotionally grounded. Again, there's a fake dating stuff out there, but listen. These obstacles in this book feel like real adult life, just not, oops, we didn't communicate, no miscommunication, or just the common things we get in the fake dating trope. This isn't it. It really has substance, this book. It delivered 5 stars. 5 stars. This is probably going to show up in a guide as well. So this was hitting. This was hitting. Okay, let me see. Also in romance, I have The Paris Match by Kate Clayborne. And look, another Clayborne banger. Okay, just another one. So we have our main character who is a physician who claims her divorce was amicable. But of course, she's about to be trapped in Paris at her former sister-in-law's wedding with said ex-husband and that family, And anyway, he also has a new girlfriend. And then the best man, antagonistic, handsome, also visibly scarred, but also determined to get under her skin. So we also have a bride getting cold feet. My gosh. So our main female character and this, gruffy guy team up to keep the wedding from imploding. So kind of like as they're in this forced proximity situation, he becomes like this buffer between her and the people who kind of still know her as, oh, you're the one who kind of left the situation. So anyway, another slow burn, emotionally intense, just a very breathtaking, very well done. Because again, Kate Clayborne writes people in a way who are wounded, but they learn how to be, good and honest and okay again. Love the Paris setting, but we still get the real point, which is the vulnerability as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop there on the romance. So you got some really great previews into romance. But let's get into some of the mysteries and thrillers, because I have some mysteries and thrillers to share with you. But first, I need to take a sip. Okay, let's get into the mysteries and the thrillers. These are all the early books I've read, again, in preparation for the spring and summer reading guide. But if you're new here, winter is out now, so grab your copy of that guide while it's still available. So, these mysteries and thrillers, listen, the ones I'm glancing at, you're going to get Locked Room. You're going to get bodies, of course, complicated morality and things happening. But let's start light with The Pie and Mash Detectives Agency by J.D. Brinkworth. This is a debut, cozy-ish flavor, but it still has teeth. So we have two South London classmates. They're in a private investigation course and they get assigned a case that is basically local legend since the 70s. And there's this woman named Nellie who has been reported missing again and again over the decades in different places. So there's like this pattern that just shouldn't be possible, but somehow it is. And now we have another Nellie that has vanished. So the police aren't taking it seriously. So the boyfriend hires help. So we have Jane. Jane is super serious. Simon is, the kind of aloof one. And then we kind of see them just bumbling into becoming clever, which is great. The clues are fun. The mystery satisfying. The vibe, the vibe gives millennial. The vibe gives millennial detective energy, but it actually has stakes, So that was interesting. Another mystery and thriller I have is Everyone in This Bank is a Thief by Benjamin Stevenson. Listen, this author is 3 for 3 for me, though actually, no, I'll say 2 out of 3, because Everyone on This Train is a Suspect is flawless, along with this one. Now, Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. That is good, but I feel like these two, so The Train on the Suspect and this one, those are the bangers. So anyway, the premise is Ernest Cunningham, who we know from the previous books, is trying to set up a private detective agency with his fiancée. And he walks into a bank for what he thinks is just, a meeting. However, he gets pulled into this missing person investigation that is tied to bank, the vaults, their codes. And then there's this masked thief that storms in and takes everyone hostage. So, and hold on, there is a twisty part in here as well, because every hostage has stolen something. Like at least one of them is guilty of murder. So then it becomes like this puzzle box, fourth wall breaking mystery. If you watch reality TV, you know what I'm saying. But basically the author is also daring you, aka us, me, you, the reader, to keep up. So it's in this, how is he doing this way? But also resigning yourself to also being stumped at points, but you're also here to enjoy the ride. So again, just very creative. I love what this author is doing, Benjamin Stevenson. I think the first book was good, got your feet wet, but these two bangers. This a banger. Odds are definitely showing up in a reading guide. Somewhere. Okay, let's get into Pomona Afton Can Totally Catch a Killer. This is by Bellamy Rose. Now, I had read the first book over winter break, so this second one is so delightful and witty. So it's a sequel, I feel, that really understands the assignment. It gives us glamour. It gives us ridiculous. It's like, let's be smart here. And Pomona is an heiress, and she's like tabloid royalty who has already solved a murder once in book 1. And now she's hosting a charity gala at the New York Public Library, because she is now trying to reinvent herself to kind of be this philanthropic icon, But anyway, the night is going to end with a donor found dead somewhere, of course, in a dramatic way. And Pomona, her best friend, also becomes a prime suspect. So now she has to put on her, I was going to say detective hat, but no, darling, it's a fedora. Yes, really. And starts sleuthing through a trail that includes, the art galleries, private islands, and just the horror of Queens. You're gonna have to read to figure that out. But anyway, she's giving good energy, just funny, impulsive, capable, a fun mystery that is playful, but it also isn't filmsy. Yeah, it was a good time. I do want to talk about Joshilyn Jackson. Oh my gosh, Missing Sister is a new book, solid read, character-driven thriller that really asks some really uncomfortable questions about justice. And I love seeing Joshilyn Jackson because, you know, it's good. I haven't had like a good read in a while. But anyway, our main character Penny is training to be a cop, and she shows up at this murder scene and realizes that the victim is one of the men who odd her twin sister years ago. Trigger warning, the word is in the video's description. But she finds this person nearby, doesn't arrest her, but takes the thing she has and lets her go. And suddenly she becomes complicit. So from there, it becomes this tense spiral. Penny's obsessed with the woman, terrified of what she's involved in now, but she's also haunted by what happened to her sister. And the story just kind of keeps tightening as she really tries to figure out whether this is vengeance or justice or just something darker. This is a dark book, obviously, but it's also propulsive. The characters are excellent, and it just kind of lands with that satisfying climax. It really took me back to like Karen Slaughter kind of books as well. But I have to talk about Tana French. Tana French has a banger, excellent novel. It's entitled The Keeper. Great crime fiction with all of that Tana French weight, you know? So the kind where the mystery is the plot, but the town is the real subject. So we have this Irish farm town and a teenage girl who is found dead in the river. And the official story is that she unalived herself. But the people closest to the truth don't buy it. And the more questions they start to ask, the more they're pressured to stop asking. So there's a local power dynamics in there. There are land grabs happening. There are rumors. There's intimidation. And just kind of this looming feeling of, you know, the civilization is changing, like we as a people are changing, just hanging over everything. So, yeah, Tana French does what she does best, okay? She makes the atmosphere so thick, you feel like you're breathing it in. You are there. So you get that slow burn. It's so deeply human. And without spoiling it, it ends with this moral bite that I think you're still going to have the taste in your mouth for a while. You definitely are. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it, but Tana French, banger, another banger. But we're going to get into now some of the, literary fiction and general fiction books. These are the books that really kind of tug at your soul, I'm going to say. But first, I need a sip. Okay, let's get into the general and literary fiction category, because this is one of my personal favorite categories, because these are the books that don't just distract you from life, they help you to kind of metabolize life. Now, I read a lot of these books over the holiday break, but one I read in January is Lake Effect by Cynthia Sweeney. Listen, banger, excellent novel. This is such an inviting, big-hearted family drama that really spans decades that we start off in the 70s. So we have these two neighboring families, they fracture. We see them reconfiguring in the fallout of an affair that happens and a divorce that happens. So then the story now follows the ripple effects on the adults and especially on the children and how they grow up shaped by all the scandal and the choices and also the cultural shifts of that era. So it's really doing that life before the internet vibes thing so well. And the way how people could just disappear and the way secrets could just stretch out. It's just amazing. And there's also this really great thread of food and food related work throughout as well, because there's this grocery business, there's a cooking food culture, and just everything felt so tactile and so well lived in. So this is warm, it's sharp, it's emotionally observant in that Sweeney way, where love and resentment kind of sit side by side in the same room. It's just, listen, did you read The Nest by Cynthia Sweeney? I love The Nest. It was so good. If you love that, I know she had a book before that, Good Company. That was okay. It was good. It was okay. This is a banger. But I also want to talk to you about The Valley Eventful Ghost by Kim Fu, I think. Fu? Is that how you say it? I don't know. Apologies if I got names wrong today, but this is my first Kim Fu novel. It's brilliant, and now I want to read everything this author wrote. Because this is literary, but it's highbrow horror that still turns pages, and the premise is so deliciously unsettling. Because we have this therapist who is grieving her mother and uses this small inheritance she gets to buy a home, except the only thing she can afford is like this model house in this very stalled out development, that's very isolated. It's above a rainy valley. It's like blank slate, eerie, just way too quiet, all the things. And then the haunted feeling that started as grief becomes something else completely. And I think what makes this novel so good is how the haunting is layered with real things that are already haunting her. So there's trauma, there's assault, there's this codependence, there's the emotional weight of caring for people who are suffering. I have to tell you, it is so unsettling, but it's so elegant and beautifully done. And it really is a ghost story that I think is also a story just about like the different things that we carry in life. Now, wait. There's this other book, Celestial Lights by Cecile Pin or Cecile. I don't know how that name is pronounced. Again, apologies. Celestial Lights is such a quiet, such a deeply human book. And it's structured around memory. And I always find memory to be this very interesting thing. And we have an astronaut who's on this like unprecedented mission, but is also looking back on his life from space. So from a childhood in an English village to years of achievement without fulfillment, to love that becomes the emotional anchor. And then, of course, the moment a charismatic billionaire offers him the chance at, of course, greatness and the possible cost that could also take him away from his family for more than a decade. So in an interestingly way, I think this is also about ambition and also propulsion and also poison in a weird way, because it's melancholic in a beautiful way. But it also asks like that big question about what would you or what do you trade, or what would you willing to trade for legacy? And after you've made that trade, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I think this is going to be the last one. I want to talk to you about Kiran Millwood Hargrave. I always have a hard time saying it because I'm so excited. But the new book is entitled Almost Life, and this is a banger. Hargrave, absolute banger. It's a brilliant novel. It's so lyrical, and it's also a decade-spanning story of love between two women that keeps finding itself, but also losing itself, and then circling back again and again. In a weird way, it's like a haunting of its own too. Now, they meet in Paris in the 70s. They fall into a formative summer romance, but then over the next 3 decades, their lives just braid through together. It has this longing, there's a distance, there's betrayal, there's tenderness, and the ache of paths that were taken but also not taken. This has a backdrop, a very beautiful backdrop of queer community and chosen family, but the cost of living through cultural shifts, So there's talk of loss during the AIDS era. And I think the author just writes intimacy in a way that feels both lush and brutally honest. Like, I have chills right now because I think this book understands that love can be real, even when it isn't perfect and clean. And I feel like the emotional consequences of this novel kind of is the whole point, But I think I'm going to stop there because that is a lot of books. That was my January. Those are 25 contemporary books. We had the 7 books, physical books that I'm reading from my TBR, my physical TBR, the 18 books that are advanced reader copies for the spring and summer reading guide. And I have to tell you, it was great to kind of have pockets of peace reclaimed this month. I know some of you might have had a harder time focusing on your reading this month because of just everything that is happening in this world. So I hope you're able to find some pockets of peace while also, providing acts of service. Because again, whenever I feel overwhelmed or helpless, or I feel like I'm losing hope, there are 2 things I always do. Number one, acts of service in whatever way possible. Because when I feel helpless, but I can, help someone else in some other way or do something positive that will benefit, a community or a group of people, it's so helpful. But then also books, and I feel so incredibly blessed to be surrounded by books. And I feel incredibly blessed to come here and have the ability, to have a camera, turn on a camera, turn on my microphone and share some stuff with you as well. So I hope you found something in this video that felt like this could be shelter for you. Let me know in the comments, what was your favorite read from January? What was your escape? But also if there was anything I shared today that you think you'll be adding to your reading list, adding to your TBR, I would love to hear from you. But also let me know what books you'd like me to read next, what author deep dives you'd like me to do. But also let me know if you're excited for the spring reading guide. I think the date I have is the first Friday in March. I don't want to give you a date and then I forget. But the first Friday in March is what I'm shooting for. So subscribe to the newsletter so you're the first to get it. And of course, I will be sharing here on the YouTube channel as well. I'm really excited to curate another February TBR. I have lots of classics on my list as well. But today I wanted to make it all about the contemporary books. So if you haven't already, now's a great time to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit that notification bell. I go live every week and I upload new videos as well. Alrighty, everyone. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.